Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast with your host, Lorna Poole, sharing the secrets to creating wealth, investing, and that all-important money mindset. To find out more and accelerate your journey to financial freedom, head on over to www.lornapoole.com to get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast. Would you love to replace those behavioral loopholes that stop you from achieving your dreams, to stop you from creating success, especially in the area of financial freedom? Well, my guest expert today is a transformational success coach, best-selling author, speaker, and show host. Midori Verity assists ambitious professionals with discovering their best path to excellence by breaking down their negative behavioral loops for easier and lasting success. Midori is the best-selling author of Secrets to a Kickass Marriage, host of the Shift Show, and is the founder of the MOX Life. She has a degree in Communications and Sociology from the University of California. She is also certified behavior consultant and has been featured on FoxNews, CBS, Prevention Magazine, and the Martha Stewart Wedding. Midori, great to have you here.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Me and you chatted before, and Midori, like when we're trying to create success in our life, we have this idea of where we're going and what we want to do, and sometimes we know what we should be doing, but it just does not work for us.
Yeah, and how frustrating is that, right? So many of us read everything, we go to courses, we pay a lot of money to be coached and educated on how to be successful, whether it's financial or in any area of our life, but then it just doesn't work. And that could not be any more frustrating, but all of us go through that, right?
Yeah, because, we hear this over again. We are where we are today because of our beliefs, our patterns, how we see ourselves, how we see the world. And, they're big loopholes. So, what's the secret to shifting it?
Yeah, so just to back up a little bit, what's happening when we, learn all these things and we have the right knowledge to be successful in whatever area of our life it is, but it's just not happening, is that we have these negative behavioral loops that are replaying in our brain, such as, I'm not smart enough to be wealthy. I'm not educated enough to be wealthy. Or, for many people, for many of us, we didn't come from abundance. So we don't have an abundance mindset. So it can be any of these things that we tell ourselves. And the more that we say it, the more that it becomes a stronger belief, just like a muscle. Like the more that you work out, the stronger you get. The same thing happens when we are saying things in our head about ourselves. It becomes a stronger belief. And so in order to change it, like you had asked, okay, so now what do? So you know that you should be investing wiser. You know that you should be stepping out of your comfort zone for more success. You know that you should be doing this, that, and the other thing, but it's just not happening. What needs to happen first, and this is a fundamental thing, is that we need to change that behavioral loop. We can replace it with positive behavioral loops that do serve us, that can help us be happier and more successful and have more financial freedom, but you have to change those patterns. So there's a few ways to do it. The very first thing that you need to do is to recognize what that behavioral loop is that you're saying to yourself. And that's the number one challenge, because we can go our whole lives and never realize what it is. But it's to recognize that challenge that you have in your head, and then you can start working on it more.
I can tell you one of mine with money, right? And I catch it every time. And it's been such a story. is, oh, I don't have enough money, and when I have enough money, I'll do that.
Oh yeah, see, so that's perfect. So that's a behavior loop. So what you need to ask yourself is, what is it about, what's the excuse that I'm coming up with, and where did it stem from? Why am I creating this own mental block of someday when I have money, then I can go do X, Y, or Z? So you have to think back, okay, where did that stem from? And there's a couple of little strategies that you can use to help you get to that core, to that thing that is the inspiration for that negative behavioral loop. So one thing that you can do is come from an observer's point of view. It's always easiest for us to analyze other people, right? To be able to see someone else and know what their problems are. And so do that with yourself. Think of your challenge. So in your case, Lorna, you're saying someday when I have more money. So that's your
someday when I have more money, I'll invest. Someday when I have more money, I'll get health insurance. Someday when I have more money, I'll buy a house. Someday, it rules my life, but I can catch it now. So let's talk about that. How do you let that not control you?
Yeah, so it's not a matter of controlling you, it's a matter of changing it. So it's no longer a behavior that you follow. It's no longer a belief system that you have, and you replace it with a new belief system. Because if you're always trying to fight that, that's really tough. That's just like you're going on a diet and there's donuts all around you and you're thinking, I'm not going to eat that donut, I'm not going to eat that donut, I'm not going to eat that donut. All you want to do is eat that donut, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why it's so important to change these behavioral loops. So the first step is, or this is one strategy, there's a number of strategies, but here's an easy one, is to step back and be the observer and think, okay, why would someone have this problem? This problem that you had just mentioned. What is this about? And then I want you to think of, what are your core values? What's really, really important to you? What are your belief systems? And then also, what's your past experiences? So going all the way back to childhood, think of how your family related to money. You know, for me, my dad was a teacher and he was raised during the Depression. So for him, he always says things like, oh, rich people are evil. Or, he has never, ever, ever had debt. So he doesn't believe in using debt to build wealth. And so those were my belief patterns. That's where it stemmed from me for financial success. So I had to identify it. And then the next step, Lorna, is to name it. So then you find out so you know where it stemmed from. Come up with a name for it. So it could be something like,
Midori, are you talking about a name for the behavioral or for the belief?
Process. Yep. So what is it that's causing you those problems? So for me, it was, what I had learned from my childhood, from my dad. So, I just called it, oh, there's my dad again. There's my dad's financial beliefs. So that was kind of the name that I came up for it. So whenever I feel that rearing its ugly head, I can address it and put in the new positive behavioral loops that I've learned, that I've taught myself, so that I overcome that belief. And you just keep practicing till it becomes what you believe all the time. It's just easier. So that's,
So first of all, right? So first, let me just say this. So first of all, we identify it, right? Then we name it. Mm-hmm. And then we put in our new positive.
Right. You want to come up with a positive, something to replace that old behavioral loop. So something that you.
So what kind of behavior, say, would somebody have? I mean, I probably shared it with my belief, but if I believe, because not everybody sees this, I don't have enough money, and I said, oh, well, I don't do this, or I might hold back on this or whatever. So do we have to identify the belief and the behavior? Or
it's very powerful. Yeah, because once you can figure it's all psychology, and these neuropsychology is what this is all about. And so that's why it's so important to know what the behavior is, and then to have a name for it, because then it makes it really easy to bring it up when you need to. When you're like, oh, there it is. There's that money fallacy that, money fallacy can be the name of it. There's that money fallacy rearing its head again. So now what I'm going to do is you can do something called the 5-second rule, which I learned from Mel Robbins, who's incredible, but she talks about this 5-second rule. And what that means is, so when you feel that negative belief come up, you have 5 seconds to take action to change it. So let's say that I'm thinking about making an investment, right? I'm thinking of investing in some type of stock. I've done the research. I know that it's pretty good, but then that fear comes up like, I'm going to put down $10,000. That's a lot of money. And I can come up with a million reasons why not do it. And so what you do is you have this 5-second rule. And within that 5 seconds, you decide on what your decision is going to be. And that way you learn to overcome the fear and you become more of an action taker. And eventually these new beliefs become your habit. So instead of having the habit of, ooh, yeah, I'm scared to make that financial investment. Or someday when I have enough money, I will make that investment. Instead, what you're doing is you're like, you know what? I am going to take this action. I'm going to put down, I only have $50. I'm going to start with $50 today. And that becomes your action. That becomes your new behavior pattern. Is that making sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of like you see what you see that pattern or that behavior or that belief pop up, you name it, and then you say, right, I'm going to take this one little step.
Yep, baby steps. Start with baby steps. Don't make it overwhelming. Just start with what you can do right now and then come up with a plan. When you can see the plan, it makes it easier. Also, when you have a plan, it helps lessen that uncertainty in your head that brings up the fear. And what this is all about is we all have what's called the limbic brain. That's our reptilian brain, the back of our heads, our brain stem. That's there to protect us from danger. So when we have these fears, like what you brought up, Lorna, or for me, with my dad saying, oh, rich people are evil. Those kind of things, that my reptilian brain, when it comes to money, makes me think, oh, that's fearful. That's dangerous. I better not go there. So it's trying to protect me. But when we have the tools such as the 5-second rule, that brings it back to our thinking brain. And our thinking brain is where we can change patterns. So it's important to grab hold of that limbic brain. And you start saying, nope, limbic brain or the subconscious brain, I got this. And this is the decision that I am choosing to make. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like noticing and then saying, look, I want a different result. So I'm, here, listen to me. Let's do this.
Yep. And as you start doing this easier in all aspects of your life. So, when I help someone who wants to start a business, what happens is that I teach them these skills for their business, but then it transpires into the rest of their life. So the relationships become easier and stronger and healthier. The relationships with their kids, at work, with everything, because you're recognizing these behavior loops that can mess you up that can really trip you up in all areas of your life. Makes sense? So that's what you're doing is you're learning how to gain control of it and take over and be conscious with the decisions that you make.
I love it. And I love the way you said behavioral, because we can think a certain thing, we can know a certain thing, but we don't change our behavior.
That's it. I see this all the time. I had a client recently. She had been in startup mode for her business for about 5 years. She had never, ever made over $3,200 a year. And we started working together, and we found out that she had behavioral loops of she wasn't deserving enough, that money didn't come easy to her family. She was a huge people pleaser. And so she couldn't sell. That was a block that was happening. So she just called me on last Friday. and told me, this is 4 months, we stopped working together about 4 months ago, and she just told me she had her first $18,000 month, and that she could already tell the next coming months were going to be even higher because of the patterns and because of the systems that we had in place. So that's how effective and how quickly this can all work.
Love it. Midori, for anyone listening to this and they know what they should do, but they're not doing it, what would you say to them?
Get a hold of it. So remember these 3 things that we mentioned. Number 1, figure out what the behavioral loop is that you are saying in your head. Number 2, name it. And then number 3, use something like the 5-second rule to replace that behavioral loop with one that serves you better.
Love it. Midori, how do we find out more about you?
You can just go to my website, MidoriVerity.com, and that's spelled M as in Mary, I, D as in door, O-R-I, and then my last name is V as in Victor, E-R-I-T as in Tom, Y.com, and you can contact me from there, and we can set up a strategy call and talk about what's going on in your world and hopefully identify some of those behavioral loops.
And what would you say, as someone who's on the path to financial freedom, why does this matter?
Because if you don't want your life to always be struggling, we all know those people who seem to be so successful so easily. It's not hard for them. They just seem to make the right decisions. It's because they have the right mindset. They have an abundant, successful mindset. And so if you want your life to become easier, then that's all it is. It's just learning how to change that. And it's really not hard once you have the tools and the skills to do it.
And what else I love about what you shared is about, if you look, I think sometimes we can make it about our self-worth or we're not good enough or whatever. But if you look at it as, I'm just creating a new habit and one habit builds on another. And before you know it, you're doing those very things that those people you're looking up to.
Exactly. And then people are looking up to you. So things can shift really, really quickly. And that's what I invite everyone to take advantage of.
Yeah. Thank you, Midori. This has been an amazing conversation. Midori was on my Love podcast. Absolutely loved what she had to share. And now she's back here teaching you success because she is a success. So do take her message on board and walk the talk. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Lorna.
Hey, everyone. Remember to join us in the Private Financial Freedom Podcast Facebook group with me, your host, Lorna Poole. This is a safe haven of like-minded, wealth-getting go-getters who, like you, are on their journey to creating financial freedom in their life. This is where you and I can get intimate. I can give you the support and guidance to go from where you are now to where you want to be, developing your wealth mindset and creating your financial freedom life. Join at www.facebook.com/groups The Financial Freedom Podcast. You will see the links to this on the website. It's in the show notes, or type it into the Facebook group. All you have to type in is Financial Freedom Podcast and you will see us there. Look forward to seeing you in the group. Take care. Thank you for joining us on the Financial Freedom Podcast, to creating wealth, investing, and developing your money mindset. To get started today on your journey, head on over to www.lornapoole.com and grab your free course, 5 Steps to Breaking Free from Your Poverty Mindset and Accelerating Your Journey to Financial Freedom. See you there.